Hello, everyone. I am waiting for my guests to join. Okay. I am inviting. Oh, yeah. Okay. Accept. I will be accepting the join request. What's that? Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
How
Can
are
you
you,
hear me?
Victoria? Yes, yes.
Okay, I didn't do any introduction, so let me do the introduction, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so today I am joined by a very special guest again for another very interesting interview. And this is Yogacharya Rakesh, and he's a founder and director of Samyak Yoga. He is also an Indian philosophy scholar, Sanskrit scholar, and so much more. Welcome. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me. Would you like to add something to
Always
your
pleasure.
introduction?
Oh, no, it's already a great introduction. More than actually.
Okay, I appreciate. And today I would like to, well, usually the interviews or the conversations, they go pretty spontaneously. Uh, uh, but is it, hello? Hello? I think there is some issue with the connection. Mm, Can you hear me? Can somebody who is watching say if they hear me or if they can hear Rakesh? Hello?
Ah, yes, finally.
Yeah, okay, something was
Yeah, yeah.
off for a moment. Okay, so I would like to focus on what does it mean in practice to live in body, mind, soul balance, and how you can add your valid experience to this. Like from your experience, what does it mean to you? But first of all, and this is actually anyway connected to the topic, can you say how would you describe in this moment today how yoga was introduced to your life? Because that's very
Oh,
interesting story, right? Especially for the people outside of Indian culture context.
mm, oh, yeah. I was first of all nowhere interested. Sorry. Hello, everybody. I was not coming back to the question. I was not interested in any of the subjects. I was in the teacher training today. I was explaining the same that I used to think that this yoga, spirituality, religion, God, and all of this is a big scam. Uh, you know that people just talk about all of these, and so generally I had a little bit of I might not say aversion, but like a dislike to all of this, and but I genuinely used to feel um, about these kind of discussions. I remember when I was probably seventh standard, I had a one evening discussion with my uncles around that why somebody is a God's favorite child, somebody is gifted, somebody is not. If there is a God, he cannot be doing this. That's very partial approach. So this kind of discussions used to be there, but I, apart from that kind of seeking, I was never really interested. But somehow, for strange reasons, on that particular day, I met my teacher. He was in a Gurukula visit. So I was invited to go there, attend the interview. I met him. He was so different compared to all the elders that I met before. Very unusually, he was speaking about life and how a human being should be, which was very weird compared to other adults. So I felt like, I always think that I fell in love with my teacher in the real sense. Then I felt like if I, live, I should live this type of life. And purely out of, what do you say, the attraction to a very different approach of my teacher, I went to Gurukula. Uh, Gurukula is the place for the ones who might not be knowing. This is more like a similar to Tibetan monastery, for the lack of better example, where you live with the teacher for a longer time. Lived there for 7 years. Slow in the beginning, I studied everything just to make him happy. Otherwise, he will be. There used to be time when he would ask me a question, or then if I don't answer in the way he thinks it should be, then he would be a little upset. So just to make sure that he won't be upset, I was reading and studying, and then slowly that became an addiction. Right? It started giving me the whole study of yoga, Vedanta. They started giving me the answers, at least through my teacher. They started giving me the answer that I was actually looking for, which I did not know that I was looking for. So it kind of gave me a lot of how do you say, they started putting the puzzle of life into the right framework, um, which kind of was very, very fascinating. Then there was no turning back.
Mm. Okay, so what does it mean for you to live yoga lifestyle?
Oh, uh, to live yoga lifestyle is, um, in
Would you
two words.
explain one
Yeah.
more? Say it's appropriate to say like to live yoga lifestyle because then it's or to say how it's better to frame it like to
Ah,
live.
if you are connected with the nature within, if you're adapting to the nature around, nature in the sense not the concrete world that man made, but nature around, if you're adapting yourself, if you're able to manage your energies efficiently, then you are having a yoga lifestyle, if that is a word. But even in order to manage your energies efficiently, you need to know what kind of energy you have, what kind of energies around, how to manage them. That's entire skill, which needs a lot of learning. If you're able to understand your nature within, if you're able to understand the nature around, that's a great way to look at yoga as a lifestyle. But even to understand the nature within, that itself takes a longer time. So saying is easy, practicing is very difficult.
Hmm. So yeah, it's more anyway. It's more adequate to refer to yoga to living a yoga lifestyle, for example, than or I mean it depends because if somebody just practices asana yoga, that's also fine. But that
Yeah,
means
yeah,
so to say just this, right? Or I mean, it's not just, but it's like it's this. And then if somebody is more like interested into going into the whole lifestyle, then it starts to broaden.
correct. It doesn't have to be only something. It can be many things. It can be with something, without something also. What I mean is, sometimes we end up like this is what I wrote an article recently about calling out people. Oh, you are just practicing asanas. It's okay. Your yoga starts with asanas. Probably it will go somewhere else, but right now only asanas. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing wrong. And somebody's yoga doesn't have asanas. That also is okay. You know. So you might not be practicing asanas, but you still practice yoga. It should be okay. It is yoga is all embracing, not really very exclusive.
Okay, so there's another teaching from yoga, actually, from the philosophy, that we should learn to look broader always, right? Like,
Right.
and not calling out the names, or not calling out like, oh, you're doing justice, or like, you do asana, you don't do asana, like,
Yeah.
this
So
is the whole
why
teaching.
to stereotype and why to make it like, okay, if you are a yoga practitioner, that means you do headstand, handstand, lotus, and that's why you are a yoga practitioner. Not necessarily. You might not do any asana, but you are still a yoga practitioner, because yoga is not just asanas. That is one side. And if you're doing only asanas, nothing else, then that is also okay. It should be fine.
Mm. Okay. Oh, we have a question also here. Um, the question goes: how long is the history of yoga philosophy?
Hi, Catherine. Um, to be very honest, like if you see this, the approach of yoga, the philosophy of yoga as we see today, it is always like how to make our life better than what it is today, right? My tomorrow should be better than what it is today. This has been the approach of the mankind, probably right after the caveman life. So the moment we started having the domestic life, we started exploring this, and specifically in this part of the world, there was a lot of um, time for the evolution of the man, and that's why there was more work. So even to say that Patanjali was the early examples is not right. Patanjali himself is around 3000 years back, but you will see all others, most of the big names in yoga, not in the modern yoga, but big names like Vasishtha, Vishwamitra, Gautama, Atri, Bharadwaja, Yajnavalkya, Marichi, all of these names, they come much early than Patanjali, probably at least 6 to 7,000 years, of some of the names at least. Vasishtha goes even much beyond than this during the time of Ramayana. So how long the history of yoga philosophy has been? At least you can trace to 8 to 9,000 years, but I would not limit at 8 or 9,000 years, because there has been a very very long journey of evolution of philosophies, where yoga has also been one of those. It is very difficult the moment it goes for few thousand years. um, then it becomes very difficult to trace out when it started, how it all started. As it could be just a few years back, few 1 or 2 centuries back. You can slightly point out the moment it goes for thousands of years. After a while, we just don't really know. But one thing is for sure, you can easily find out Patanjali amongst all of these is actually the latest one. Um,
Hmm.
the others have been much, much before. Yajnavalkya is in the time of Upanishads. Vasishtha was the teacher of Rama. You have Vasishthasana, right? Vishwamitra was a contemporary of Vasishtha. You have a Durvasasana, the leg behind the neck, and you go
Mm-hmm.
to the standing position.
Mm-hmm.
So Durvasa was during the time of Vasishtha in the story of Rama. So they are much, much before than Patanjali time.
Hmm. In a sense, now we are actually referring to the documentation that we can somehow trace, right? Because I think now that we could actually say that history of yoga, if we assume that humankind always wanted to improve, what you also said
Right,
in a moment before, right? That then we can assume that actually yoga was like always there. The
right.
right.
But probably in different forms, because to think that what Patanjali wrote, exactly the same method, same practices were there even another 3000 years back, would not be right. This is yoga. I would say, instead of yoga philosophy, I would say yoga's evolution has been for a very, very long time. So you will see that kind of evolution of yoga in the upcoming centuries also, right? So probably how yoga practice and its approach was seen probably 12,000 years back, we don't know. It is a
Yeah.
human tendency to evolve, So I would not say yoga has been in the pristine form as it is for the last 15,000 years. No, that would not be right to think like this. It has evolved. It has when it has gone wrong sometimes. It was misunderstood sometimes. Uh, there was a big gift of some great teacher sometimes. It was completely messed up sometimes. That's how any philosophy, any journey of knowledge will be.
Mm-hmm. And so, referring to this from your personal journey, from like in your lifetime, how it was already evolving when you, in comparison to when you started, and throughout
Oh,
these few decades, and then up until now, when you are actually, you're specialized in teaching another generation, especially teachers, right? Oh,
right.
I forgot at in the introduction that you were the the teacher of all teachers, in a
No,
way.
no, nothing.
So, but at least a lot of people, right? Like every month there are so many people coming to Samyak. So
Right.
there's also a big responsibility, right?
Yeah. It is. But it has changed a lot over the years. One thing that I really feel like missing for the disadvantage of the modern world after social media is when we were starting to practice, I had no idea what my teacher is going to teach next. You know, so many a times we would wonder after the practice that I could have thought about doing this kind of variation, but I did not know. So what my teacher would say, I would just do the same because I have no access to other asanas. I would not be able to see a photograph of an asana, right? So what he shows me is exactly what I'm going to do now. So there is no such influence of, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. There is nothing. So you will be doing what is taught to you. That is the maximum that you can go for. And also, we were learning at the time when there was no idea of a manual, there was no book. So specifically for the yoga asana practices, there was no such book that you have to finish these asanas today. There was largely teacher student relationship. That's it. Um, while I see this is one thing that kind of messed up. That is, you see so many asanas on Instagram, I know on Pinterest, on Google Images and all. Many a times, even after practicing a lot, you might not feel sufficient. Oh, you have to do this also, you have to do that also. But on the other hand, there are many such practices that are so creative methods of preparing for an asana, which we were not knowing that many types of preparations. Sometimes when I see on Instagram reels, somebody is preparing for a back bend, and the other day I was looking at some back bend preparation. I was like, wow, that's a great idea. That's such a simple idea, but
Mm-hmm.
we never thought of preparing, because there is so much of information that you borrow from different movements and add to prepare for such asanas. This is a great advantage in the modern world. That has changed a lot of preparations. And when you are teaching when you have students who are from different cultural backgrounds, you need to have a lot of emphasis on preparations. Whereas in a Gurukula atmosphere for us, largely we all came from the same backgrounds, we were of the same age, had almost the same physical fitness, you know, uh, kids at the age of 16, just completing your 10th grade. So it is much easier with a similar social background, your knees have almost the same strength because you do quite the same things,
Mm-hmm.
your back is quite the same. So it was much easier. But when you teach in a teacher training like this, specifically today with so much of knowledge, at the same time so many different challenges of people, yeah, social media has been really useful if we use it properly, of course. Has been helping in the growth of specifically asana based practices.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, uh, there is a whole complaint about there is only so much of focus on asana. But trust me, it has been like this for the last 100 150 years, that there has been a lot of emphasis on asana because it is much easier to teach, it is easier to learn from somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas meditation somebody can teach, but the quality of meditation is only completely depending on the student, right? You can't teach bhakti yoga, you can't teach jnana yoga, right? You can only explain, but you can teach asana pranayama. So obviously that will be the center of focus. So that is not very new, but it has got more attraction in the last 10 years probably. A lot has changed, some good, some not so good.
Yeah, like always, actually, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the part of that. But this you put again many interesting things. But actually, the thing you said that you can't um, check, let's say, that much if you teach meditation. But as a teacher, for example, right now, what I'm struggling with, uh, or something that I would like to have access to, let's say, is that actually the more in the details you go, I can check just more the form of the asana,
Mm.
but actually, even though asana is a more physical form, there is still so many things that has to happen on a level that I can't go and check somebody's mula bandha, for example.
Mhm.
First, there would be
Oh
some
yeah.
signs like if the person is actually really the more right, the more experienced teacher would see like the small changes in the body, in the quality of the movement, of like how the body is like more the energetic level, I assume, as well, and also what I can say from my experience.
Mm.
But still, sometimes there would be something like I know that I am repeating a lot of things, or something that I'm repeating some correction, and there is like really no way I can be somehow sure that the person is doing it. So how do you?
Yeah, yeah. So that's why, that is something that has to be emphasized to everybody, that two things. One, yoga is a very, very individual's practice.
I think that
It's a
is
very
right.
individual practice. Yeah. The second part of that is a teacher can only be a guide. A teacher cannot like hold your hand, make you do something, whether it is asana, pranayama, meditation, bhakti yoga, whatever you call. Teacher can be a guide, but the guide is only beneficial when the student wants to walk with the guide, right? So if the student doesn't want to walk with the guide, then you go nowhere. So it is very important for the student to walk with the guide. At the same time, even for a teacher also, that I should know that I am a guide. I am not somebody who can pull somebody into the practice. It is not possible. That if I start doing that, I become very egoistic, you know. So that's why you will see sometimes there are some injuries because of hands on adjustments. It is because the teacher starts feeling that I will make you do the asana and you will be shocked. Is a very egoistic approach, right? I will push you into the asana so much that you will do it and you will be so surprised, and you will be like, oh, how did you make me do it? But this kind of approach leads to injury, is because I feel like I will make you do it. No, no, I can only guide you to do it. So
Mm,
even at the physical level also, there are many things that you can't really access. In that case, meditation and other aspects of yoga, you can only guide, but then you have to let go.
yes. Yes, and that also refers to what you said, that if you have people from different background, and what I see in the West is actually that um, even though maybe the cultural background somehow would be more similar to the people
Mm,
in the, but then still the background, like if they are already adults, people working different jobs, so then there would be still like somebody like in this drop in classes, right, when somebody might be already like an advanced practitioner, and then sometimes like it happens, right, when pretty literally somebody would just came to the first class, and then like the
mm.
whole skill is actually also like how to combine, like how to guide such class to make it interesting for everybody, and that people can actually learn something, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's always a challenge, and these are all actually the new challenges of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Because we started making it more like a studio based classes where everybody starts practicing at the same time, everybody ends the practice at the same time. So this has never happened before. It was mostly one to one. Even when there is a practice, you practice at your pace, mostly what you see in a Ashtanga practice. That's how it used to be. So suddenly when you have everybody inhale, raise your arms up, so that is more like a, you know, fluidic movements, all synchronized. So the moment you have such practices, it is too complicated to teach, to make it more effective, because somebody is very advanced in a particular asana, somebody is struggling in that asana, and you have very limited time to teach that class. So it is a challenge, but that challenge we created because of scalability and capitalism. Not that is not yoga's problem. That is our problem of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually I would like to emphasize one more time what you mentioned, and also what I brought especially strongly from my trainings is that yoga is an individual journey.
Yeah,
The, the
it
journey,
is. It is.
yeah. There was a question. Let me come back to it. How is the concept of being yourself, in the quotation marks, perceived in yoga philosophy, and how does it influence everyday life?
It's I saw the question. It's a heavy question. So
We go into
that
the
needs a full
now
philosophy,
from
full
us
philosophy
from
class.
how to manage the classes.
It
Let's go.
full on philosophy. Okay. So being yourself fundamentally, as you look at it from the psychological viewpoint also, you're basically saying when I am myself, I'm largely from my character, right? So here you have to understand that the difference. There are two aspects of our existence. One that is my character, the second one is my personality. My personality is an extension of my character. So today when you are looking at me, so I'm probably, I give you the vibe of a teacher personality, right? For my wife, I'm the husband personality. For my kids, the father personality, which is an extension of my character. My character is what you call being yourself. What is that character is made up of? Made up of very strong samskaras. Samskara is a very deep rooted habits that are conditioning our patterns. So yoga fundamentally emphasizes on observing your samskaras, because basically you are nothing but the samskaras that are formed, right? The way you sit, the way you walk, the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you produce the sounds, right? uh, it's all of these. Sorry, Leela, right? So we are taking your question so after a longer time. So you are nothing but the samskaras, the conditioning, the patterns that you have created over the years, right? So that's what you are, and that's why you feel yourself when the samskaras are functioning. So, for example, you could be having a specific samskara. Let's say you speak lesser, like generally that's your samskara. This is not something that is gifted to you by God. This is literally something that you have created over the years, right? Knowingly, unknowingly. So that is yourself. When you are in a situation which is opposite to this, then you are in a conflicting situation. The social life is expecting you to be, let's say, talkative, but you are very introvert as a person. So you being yourself is the samskara that made you to be an introvert, and today's situation is expecting you to be extrovert, let's say, right? So in that case, one, of course, it is much easier to be yourself, which means following your samskaras, right? Your conditioning, because that is what yourself is. However, even these samskaras, even that character is also not something that is unchangeable. It is changeable. Now, before I start changing, I need to see what I am made up of. What is this whole samskara bundle that I carry? So, yoga's approach is to observe your patterns, observe your conditioning, observe how your samskaras are made. What makes me feel that I'm an introvert? If I go back to that example, right? So, why I feel I'm an introvert? So what is the root of it? It is not necessary that it has to be changed. That is not necessary. But it is very important to observe. So yoga's major focus is to observe your samskaras, to know what you are made up of, what kind of thought process, what kind of emotions, what kind of memories that you have formed. The more you know, if it is necessary, it can be changed. But it is, samskaras are always, there is a big discussion that we had in the teacher training with Victoria. So samskaras are always very difficult to change. It's not impossible, but because they are so strong wiring that we have inside, it is difficult to change. It takes a longer effort. You may use the Tibetan practice or the Japanese ikigai thing. In all of this, they talk about the same thing. One step at a time, very small steps, baby steps that you take after the observation. So slowly, 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 you rewire the way you want it. It can be completely changed, but it needs a lot of effort when you have to change from what yourself you have been and to the self that you want to be. But it is possible. It can be fully changed, but the wiring is so strong that it takes a long time. It takes decades sometimes.
Mm. We actually were discussing that also with the samskara. It's that somehow you are just changing a worse one for a little better one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the whole idea to if you want to define yoga, what is yoga? One way of defining is from not so good samskaras to the better.
Okay. So it's a so yoga in what, another definition, changing worse samskaras for better ones, one
Better samskara.
at a time.
Yeah.
Hey, that's actually very practical. That's very practical, and I
Yeah.
think also um, in the days of of social media and like so many like motivational coaches and speeches and so on. Um, Actually, the deeper, at least from my experience, the deeper I go into core or certain teachings, and also what happened to me during the training and studying yoga, is that it's all similar concept. Like actually, it's at the essence is very often the same thing. It's just the language that is
True.
used. It's like a different language that is being used. So now, if we use like very yoga specified, like with the Sanskrit names, and more put in the and put directly in the context of Indian culture. But actually, if we look, I had this experience like looking for something else, and then I was like, okay, but that's basically the same thing. It's just like the wording would be different. Like some people would add some
True.
emojis to it.
Yeah. No, and again, this is another thing that one of the monks in our context, in our region, was explaining that there is a cosmic intelligence, right? If we are pursuing, if there is a lot of a set of people trying to pursue certain idea, there's a cosmic intelligence which is my intelligence and your intelligence. It's all interconnected. So at a particular phase of life, you will see a particular approach almost in different parts of the world, but quite the same, you know. So we were discussing about darshanas today, and I was saying, and which is very interesting. At the same time of Patanjali, you had Buddha and Mahavira, right? So all the three, Patanjali, Buddha, and Mahavira, have been almost probably in the 100-150 years of time. They were the contemporaries. So how different and how similar their philosophies have been. So how come? It's because of the cosmic intelligence, which is nothing but shared intelligence that you and me and everybody else is participating in, right? So if there was an effort in a particular direction, uh, strongly in some part of the region, that must have influenced the other part of the region, and that part will influence somewhere, because we all part of the same intelligence.
Hmm. Which is again the essence of yoga, because that means union,
Yeah,
right?
which is exactly, yeah, the union. So in some place, and few things only change, that is largely because of the culture. In one place, somebody would be keeping water, next to the god, somebody will be keeping wine next to the god, and somebody would be keeping probably biscuits next to the god. uh, so keeping something next to the god would be the cosmic intelligence, in an easy example. But what we keep would be little different because our cultures would be little different.
Mm.
So that is the distinctive factor. Other than that, the practice looks the same.
Yeah, that's very strong also with the singing and dancing, for example, right? Like where in
True.
also rituals, and also the rituals where it's really strong part of Indian culture, and also yeah, yoga. I mean, like this we were discussing this also a lot, right, during the training, especially the 300 hours. Uh, and then in so we spoke about the importance of the rituals. Oh, you were
Mm,
mentioning like that sometimes, okay, you don't know really what it is, especially maybe when you grow up, but there is certain wisdom to it, and then it's like, yeah, just do it, and like just to allow yourself to really live this and immerse
mm,
of like
mm.
question from mind. But what is also common to pretty much, yeah, I do the blind guess because I cannot say for sure, but like let's say for all the cultures, that rituals always include dancing, some type of dancing, or dancing and singing, right, or chanting, or like playing the drums, or playing some like this type of instruments, right? Like that's part of the cosmic intelligence as well, for sure, right?
Yeah. So if you have to go a little more deeper into what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, basically both of these two physical movements,
Yeah.
right, in different forms, physical movements and fascination to the sound energy, these two have been very, very common everywhere, right? So the sound energy could be sometimes in the form of singing, sometimes in the form of chanting, sometimes playing the drum, sometimes maybe making a sound that is so strong that is audible to probably the next neighboring region. But sound making an impact to the human mind has always been very fascinating for humans. Like sound produced by humans, sounds that are audible to humans may not be produced by humans. Sound is something that is very, very fascinating. We literally started living only because of the sound. All our evolution happened because we were able, similar sounds, and create languages out of it. That language is nothing but the sounds, right? The second most fascinating is actually the movements. So it could be asana based movements, it could be some fluidic dance based movements, but physical movements have been very interesting for humans because one of the easiest methods of reaching the trance, right? So these two have been a big part of every culture wherever you go. So much so that sometimes you end up strongly disliking something. Like, in some culture, some aspects of culture would be disliking the dance, primarily because the impact that it can create. Love and hate come from the same corner, right, of the heart. So these two are not some things that you can ignore. You always take very seriously. So that's a cosmic intelligence for sure.
Because it's vibration, and then with the movement, it's certain coding, right? So like
Yeah,
it's these are certain, same with the languages, same with the vibrations. I mean, it covers all of this right now, nah? But like it's
true.
it's very it's very strong, right? Then like it impacts so much the mentality, the culture, the cultural programming, the samskaras,
Yeah, yeah.
part of the
And
samskara.
sometimes you will see so much that some cultures, specifically if you look at the tribal cultures in the southern part in this state, so there are certain tribal cultures where largely the tribal cultures have evolved because of some type of dancing and singing, which is sounds and body movements. The entire culture's base is actually these two. So they are always very, very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Actually, maybe before the question that appeared here, because I wanted to continue
Ashish.
with. You want to go with the question or?
Oh, yeah, we can go and come back to the discussion. Ashtanga third is also known as Sthirabhaga or balancing. How it is leading to balancing in terms of yoga. And please explore the same for second series also. Second series, it's not Sthirabhaga, it's right, Nadi Shodhana, right? Specifically Sthirabhaga from the third series onwards, you have, see, the word bhaga itself means wealth. And it comes from the same words that you use for Bhagavan. Bhagavan is God, the wealthy. Bhagavan is a Sanskrit word for God, or Bhagavati is goddess. So Bhaga itself means wealth, literally. Okay. Sthira is stability. Stability is the wealth. So from third series onwards, you are one physical stability is challenged to bring the wealth. So you will see that a lot of questions, a lot of asanas are in such a way that they actually challenge your practice. So the more you practice those complicated, challenging asanas, you are actually building the physical stability, leading to the mental stability. How Nadi Shodhana is happening in the second series. So I'm super simplifying these explanations right now, but you will see largely there is extreme hip opening practices and the back bend practices. Uh, if you see it, largely these are the two aspects that you will see the for the first lower two chakras and the upper two chakras. From the chakra viewpoint, they actually purify and clear the path for the energies to flow upwards. And if you literally see the entire intermediate series Nadi Shodhana, you will see it literally has that kind of method. You have the backbends, you have the deeper hip openings, and leading to the last two chakras, the Vishuddhi and Ajna, for inversion practices. So literally clearing the path for the energy to flow before you go for the deeper practices of Sthirabhaga, leading to the complete stability of the mind. The idea is by the time you finish the third series, the stillness of the mind is not even a challenge. But I'm super simplifying in the situation, but it's a good thing to discuss.
Mm. Actually, that's your answer is already also connected to this question that I wanted to ask before as a
Okay,
continuation. So now it's also a continuation.
right.
how how is this mind body relationship? What is this for you? Like, how do you understand this? And then actually, I always refer to like body mind soul connection, but then also like in
Mhm.
balancing poses, like what is actually influencing more when which one is influencing more? Like, oh, man, like just to put it out there, like yeah, what do
Mm.
we on that right now?
Yeah, I would go back to what Hatha Yoga Pradipika says. Body is a ghata, is a pot for the mind to be in. It's a pot for the mind to be in. Body is an expression of the mind. So that actually says everything. Literally, your body is an expression of how the mind has been, right? So if you're able to read your body properly, you're able to read the mind completely. So body is the storage of everything that has happened in the mind. Body is the storage. And what is happening right now, that is also expressed through the body. So body fundamentally is the one that holds an intelligence called mind. But because you can't really tap the mind directly, you start tapping the body in order to tap the mind. So, body mind connection, body is your connection to the mind, if you have to look at it. How do we connect? Because pot and what is there inside the pot are two different, appearing to be very different things. The easiest way to melt them together, how do you join them together, weld them together like a metal, is purely with the support of the breath. Breath will be the bridge between these two. But if you are able to manage the body, you are able to manage the mind. If you're able to manage the mind, you don't have to manage the body because it's already managed. But starting from the body is the easiest method. That's why most of the yoga practices come from the body, because that's the easiest method to start with. Whereas starting from the mind is also not a bad idea, but it is too difficult to start there. Specifically, when you mention about the one leg balancing asanas or any other balancing asanas, that's where slightly the whole practice changes. It's all about the mind game, right? How, if you're not in a good state of mind, even if you're physically very very comfortable to practice that balancing asana, you might lose the balance, because specifically balancing asanas are purely the mental ones. So that's why, as a teacher, the technique is always to mention the first instruction when you're getting into a one leg balancing asana or an arm balance asana. The first technique is always to focus on one single point, because it is fixing the mind, brings you the balancing asana practice, not really fixing the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very fascinating, right? Because really somebody can be super physically fit,
Mm.
and like having certain type of ease into most advanced asanas, and then one day you might be all over the mat, for example, when you don't really like properly
Oh,
yourself, right?
Patanjali sutras are always like multi-layered sutras. That's why Patanjali says very importantly that you need to have both sthira and sukha together. You know, in this context, for example, sthira is actually your strength, sukha is flexibility. So if you have one more than the other, it is always not a very good idea. That is also an imbalance. So you will see sometimes once in a while people who are extremely flexible, not even having enough strength to hold, you know, then also it is not a very good idea. You need to have the union of strength and flexibility. You should have the union of moving your body with ease at the same time to be able to be still. So both are needed. When you have one stronger than the other, you find it very very challenging. So you will see super flexible people unable to hold an asana for even 5 breaths,
Mm-hmm.
just staying there. They can get in, but to stay there they lack. So it is also an imbalance. Generally, you get a lot of appreciation if you're super flexible. You can just take a photo, but you will know your challenges. That people will be like, "Oh my God, you can do so easily," and then you know that yeah, I can, but it's the problem is I can't stay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you say there's oh, what would you say is like would be the most important, like let's say in the asanas group, because now we referred to balancing, the balancing poses, and I personally find them like extremely important and really really powerful. Um, would you say that, I know it's a kind of tricky question, but I do it on purpose. Would you, or maybe yeah, it's supposed to be that way now. Like, would you say there is like certain group of asanas that you would say is the most important, or like for to start? And no, yeah, like let's leave this question like that.
Okay. First of all, I would not say anything is more important than something else. Not a great idea. So I always say, that there should not be any favorite asana. Every asana should be treated as it is and just practice. Um, not a great idea. However, having said that, probably for the day and age that we live in, for if you have to slightly more emphasis for students in general, while having the practice of other asanas, something that is more important in this age would be inversions, uh, merely because we are always having this continuous triggering of our mind every single time, that you are always continuously active. It is, in the long run, it becomes really difficult for generations to calm down, to sit, to not to move. That kind of situation is happening because mind is always given something. So unless you know how to calm and relax, you are not going to make any significant progress on the path of yoga. So if at all you have to choose something, I would say inversions are really important. just because of the way they can bring the nervous system into relaxation. Uh, this looks very easy and not so significant, but the way we are triggering our nervous system with everything around in our life, this is becoming a serious problem in the longer run.
Mm-hmm. So referring to stillness, what is stillness? Also, especially in the context of physical practice, because then we move all the time, and also even in meditation,
Mm-hmm.
even in meditation, I find that, I mean, in order for life to continue, there is always movement inside, right? Like the heart will be beating and all the circulation will be happening. I'm saying like on the still like more human level. I'm not saying like the advanced yogis in Himalaya,
Right.
because I know
Right.
stop the beat of the heart and like,
Yeah.
or at least I heard of.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I'm saying like more like still like human level. What is this stillness? Because then even if I sit in meditation,
Mm-hmm.
somehow I feel like, okay, my frame is still. I can maintain the physical body still, but then there is everything circling inside. And then especially as I mentioned, like in the asana practice, when there is movement, also like in vinyasa, right, where there's even more this type of transitions.
Right. We are always looking at the stillness of the mind. Everything else can move. You can move the body. You can do everything, but stillness of the mind would be because whenever you are joyful, that is the state of meditation. Whenever you are joyful, the mind has been still. With continuous waves of the mind, it only looks like it is very active, but this is not really giving you the joy. So the joy is always because of the stillness of the mind. So how to achieve the stillness of the mind is actually the question in spirituality in all different schools and methods. How to still the mind? If you are able to still the mind, that is the mastery over the mind, which is the most difficult one. So other aspects, physical body can move. You can keep the body still so that the mind is still. You can keep the body moving so that the mind can be still. There is no one way to still the mind, but as long as you get the stillness of the mind, you're good, which is
Okay.
exactly opposite to the capitalist society that we are living in today.
Mm-hmm. To also like with things like multitasking or stuff like that would like force you
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like, so even the concentration, right? Like, because even in yoga, in the eight limbs, right, there would be this differentiation between concentration and meditation. So then we can't even concentrate, right? Like,
Right, yeah.
and we're encouraged to not to be able to do it, right?
Yeah, it's completely taking away.
I will come back to this to the questions. Okay, one question is, who said headstand is called king
It's called
and
king, and
sarvangasana is queen?
uh, I don't know exactly who said it. Uh, it generally comes from the scriptural references that Shirshasana, fundamentally, headstand has this ability to make you active. So it is, there is no direct scriptural references in Sanskrit, but because the active practice called headstand is more connected to the way Surya, the sun energy is, whereas Sarvangasana is more like the moon energy, and that's why that is called queen in the context of Shiva and Shakti. So just showing that how Shiva is active and Shakti is more of calming. So in the same way, these are two types of inversions exactly opposite to each other, but serving the same purpose from different methods. So these are all not necessarily king and queen, are more like a literal sense of king and queen. King refers to the sun energy, and Sarvangasana, the queen, refers to the moon energy. Back to the specific aspect of the question, I don't think there is any specific reference from the Sanskrit scriptural sources, but it is more because of the impact of it. I would assume directly who must have said this. I assume, and I have to recheck, I assume that it was Mr. B.K. Sayengar.
Okay. There was another one. When it comes to asana practice, why spiritualists mainly condemn physical aspect for hatha yoga or asana or yoga and propose spiritual aspect meditation?
Correct. Very important is because, so let's look at these two practices. One is asana practice and meditation. It is exactly like you own a BMW bike. Okay, you have a great bike, it's amazing. You can't just run the bike, you have to clean it. You have to, put some grease into the metals, so that they function properly. Your asana practice is servicing. It's putting the grease, cleaning it, washing it every day. That's what you are doing in your asana practice. But the thing is, if you keep on cleaning it, when do you ride? So your meditation is actually riding the bike. So there is nothing wrong if you're practicing asanas, but if you keep on practicing only asanas, not meditating, the main reason started the asana practice, the purpose is not served. So you need to ride the bike, right? So you need, your asana practice has to take you towards meditation. If not, your asana practice becomes more like a physical exercise. It is gymnastics, which is not necessary. And the side problem of this would be that you become so physically attached that tomorrow you would end up thinking that your asana practice is everything, which is not, right? So, because as you age, right, one way of looking at it, in the words of Osho Rajneesh, and many other people also have mentioned this, that the moment you are born, the clock is ticking. You are moving towards the death, right? Whether we like it or not. So, at the age of 32, if you are practicing asanas, 33 you will not be able to practice the way you were practicing at 32, which means your challenges will be bigger in terms of physical capabilities. So if you are not channelizing that energy to pranayamas, to meditation, to go a little more higher, then you have been spending the whole time in preparing but not really reaching anywhere. So that's why it is important that you direct your energy towards meditation also, without compromising with asana practices. Asana practices are very important, but not that important that you do only asana practices.
So again, balance needed.
Balance,
Which
balance.
on itself, right?
Yeah, that's why life itself is an experiment. You go off the balance. Nobody is in balance all the time. You go off the balance, then you acknowledge, you accept it, you try to bring some more balance. So probably you will be meditating a little more, and then you realize, oh, I'm not having enough practice of asanas. Then you practice more asanas, then you go on the other side. Between these oscillations on both sides, somewhere we find the mid path, the golden midpoint.
Yes. I would like to ask you also about the opinion on intuition.
Mhm.
What is intuition for you in the
Oh,
context of
Oh, um, there is, again, it's a little complex subject. If you remember, there is an aspect of nada which is called madhyama, parapashyanti, madhyama, and vaikhari. In madhyama, as we discuss about cosmic intelligence, in the same way, your thoughts also travel. When the thoughts travel, you are able to conceive certain thoughts that are either stored before, or something that has traveled from one place to another place, because they can travel in space. So because of that, there is lesser limitation of the time. So you are able to conceive, see, or experience beyond uh, the confinement of the words or a structural language method. So you can experience, or in a way you can figure it out certain things, only if you're receptive enough. So many a times that could be traveling closer to you, but if you are not receptive enough, you might not have the ability to embrace it. Intuition is possible. Intuition is not something extra spiritual, something suprahuman. It is not. At the same time, this is not delusion. Um, the problem with non-tangible aspects of life is, including intuition, many a times make you completely confused between what is intuition, what is the trick of the mind, because it is so not tangible that I don't know intuition or because it is so comfortable for the mind.
It's exactly that's why I asked this question, because this is the confusing part, and sometimes I hear, or even right, I would use something. Oh, this is what my intuition tells me, but then know if this intuition is correct. I mean, also in the sense correct that it would serve us, right? Because then
Right.
there would be, my intuition tells me not to do the practice today.
Oh,
Okay, like, is it really the intuition? Because it's, again, like, difficult to see, like, because, okay, maybe this day you need rest, but then,
right.
okay, when it's really this, or when it's really just the mind being lazy.
Very unpopular opinion, and everybody has different opinions. So here, this is not Patanjali, Rakesh saying. So take it or leave it. Mine is, in these kind of things, I do not want to believe that there will be any intuition. So if my intuition tells me that it's not a great idea to practice today, let's relax. That's not intuition for me. That's lazy. Or so if I have to stop, not give an excuse of intuition, I would like to give more space for my logical mind to think that okay, my body has some pain and it is tired, it needs some rest. That's okay, but I do not give space for the intuition to come in, because if I give that kind of space today, I don't know. Maybe today's intuition was actually intuition, but tomorrow, in the name of intuition, my mind will peek in. So for things that have to be done in the form of discipline, restructuring our samskaras, in my spiritual practices, if they have to be done, they have to be done. If I don't want to do, I need a proper awareness based, logical based explanation. Okay, I clearly understand I'm tired, but no intuition, I can feel it. So that's why, okay, let's stop this. But I don't want to use a non-tangible experience, because I know that tomorrow my mind will use the same.
Yeah, exactly. That might be.
But there will be some situations in life which can be very difficult to assess. Uh, you don't know. You are in front of, I don't know, like, I'm just giving a very silly example. You don't know whether you to go to that city or not. You are next to the train. Logically, you have no clue. You are on both sides, but you just finally your mind says, the moment you have the train in front of you, you're like, okay, let's get in, let's go and see. It's purely like you have no logic. Why should you go to that city? But still, you're already there. You just get in because strongly, somewhere deep in your heart, it feels like it's good to go, right? Okay, great, take it. Even if it is the trick of the mind, I don't mind, because I actually did not know which one to choose. I rather choose, even if it is a trick of the mind. But I will not choose this to think, okay, my intuition says, let's watch more reels today. That would not be the intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we need to always be attentive, right? To
Yeah,
to
yeah.
to these things.
I am more of the person of, I rather take less of intuition from within, um, compared to logical explanation and understanding, even at the cost of losing some of the intuitions. But I'm still okay, because I know my mind will play a lot of other tricks once I give more space to such ideas. So I'm very careful. Very rarely I would be like, okay, it feels good, I need to do it. That's my intuition. But I would not use it occasionally. I would use it very, very rarely. If something I have to do or I have to take a decision purely based on intuition, this is one of the rarest occasions.
Okay, I see. Okay, great. Let me look if there is something very important that I wanted to ask. Otherwise, I will have a last question.
Please, please.
Um,
While she is preparing for the next question, like I always thank you everybody, those who are still there. I always find it very fascinating that in this kind of discussion also people sit and listen and learn. It's like I mean, I don't know if there is anything worth learning, but if you're still there and listening, it's amazing. Thank you.
yeah, it's very. Oh, there was another question in the meantime that appeared from. I have a final question, so we can go with this one, and then I will have a final one. So
There are such opposing forces sometimes between going with the flow and letting things happen versus trying to control things based on logic. How to balance decision making? Yeah. Oh, it's a very complicated one. Because going with the flow and let the life unfold its beauty in front of us, or should I manage? Um, See, I don't have Patanjali's explanation to these kind of things because we don't know what he must have thought. This is purely based on my studies and my approach to life. When something is easier, I would go with the flow. If it is not making much of an indiscipline, if it is not making much of an issue in life, I would go with the flow in smaller aspects of life. For example, if I'm practicing, and today I would, instead of, I was supposed to practice, let's say, more of arm balances, but I feel like I want to do more of back bends, and I go with the flow because anyway I'm practicing, so I don't mind. But if my mind says let's go with the flow and let's lie down, so that might not be going with the flow, right? uh, so if there is a big decision which is connected to finances, or it is connected to maybe, like, to take a class, because I'm a yoga teacher, so to take a class or not to take a class, let's go with the flow, let's see what happens, then I would not go with the flow. I would like to uh, control and in my decision making, because again, as we just discussed, going with the flow sometimes can be so tricky that after a while your mind starts playing multiple ideas, with different forms. It starts using excuses uh, to go with the flow so that you don't have to control anything. So in general, when it is easy, things are happening nice, I go with the flow. So to do this or to do this, okay, let's go with the flow, whatever that works well. But then if it is so important, it's always good to have better control on your end.
okay, I was you finished to answering this question.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. There is a follow up. It's always thought provoking listening to your words, Yogacharya Rakesh. Thanks. I also think that, and I have last question for you. If anybody wants to, or anybody still wants to ask a question, then the time is now. Uh, Oksana is saying, "Well said, Rakesh, about go with the flow." Hello, Oksana. Thanks for joining
I
us.
also.
Okay, so to wrap it up, as I see there is no more follow-up questions from the audience. What is your favorite thing about being a teacher and leading the teacher trainings, especially right now? Or in general, what is like your favorite thing about yoga lifestyle, like this, yeah, and being a teacher, teaching other teachers?
Oh, oh, quite a few perks of being a teacher. See, there is no other profession where you get, I was in a school for 2 months. I was in a college, Ayurveda medical college, for 6 months. And the at that time what I decided was that I want to create a place where people want to willingly, they want to come and learn. So it shouldn't be in a college. What happens is their parents want them to learn. That is the age where they have a lot of hormonal secretion, they are not really interested in learning. What makes it so fascinating here is like people want to learn, and the beauty, the joy of teaching is like you say something, you teach something, and there is a fascination, there is a glittering in the eyes, right? Oh, in that moment, maybe there is an appreciation at the end of the class, whatever, but in that moment, that is so, it's a thrill, it's a high, it's literally a high, you know. So this
Okay.
is something I feel like the day you don't really appreciate that high of the glittering eyes of your students, then you are losing the teaching skills. Everything else don't matter that much. It's the joy of getting those glittering eyes. Something that you said, knowledge is something, right? So any type of knowledge doesn't have to be spiritual. I didn't know how to use the Instagram live, and then you tell me, and I'm like, oh, okay, that. Oh, it's amazing, right? Um, that is one thing that always motivates. That's inner fire that comes out. Everything else is great. Like you have people across the world, different professions, different backgrounds, different age groups, and it is so something that I have seen over the years is people are very, very different, at the same time exactly same across the world in different generations.
Mm.
You know, contradictory, but at the same time, it is true.
Mm-hmm. The question
Oh,
you reading?
yeah. How do you trick your mind to extend your practice? Actually do the. I tell you, this is not my idea. Davidson, the Ashtanga teacher, mentioned once, and it is, I think, the best explanation so far on how to keep your practice regularly. He said the most simple thing is make sure your mat is your closest unconditional friend. Okay, if he is an unconditional friend, make sure you say hi every day once. So even on the days when you have no time, you know that your taxi is down there, you have to go to the airport in 5 minutes, but it is your practice time. You put the mat, you go there, maybe you sit there, take 3 breaths, close, roll the mat, put it back. But if you are making an effort to go on the mat, going on the mat is the challenge, not practicing is the challenge. So if you go there, even when you know that you are not going to practice today, even on the day when you are actually tired, you are sick, unless you are bedridden type, you have slight fever, still go, because if you don't go today, tomorrow your mind will play the trick. So even on the days when you're really tired, just put the mat, go there, sit, close your eyes, 3 breaths, roll the mat, put it back. That's a ritual. Just going on the mat, right? It's a unconditional friend. You just go say hi and come back. But once you start doing it, that becomes a ritual. If you go on the mat, you practice. Extension of the practice is not a challenge. Many a times, you all those who are listening right now had issues where you go to the practice, instead of half an hour, you end up practicing 90 minutes. And somebody in your house will be like, hello, can you please complete, come back? We're waiting for you. But you are still like, you suddenly remember another headstand, one more variation, then you want to do this also. The problem is always to go on the mat.
Mm. And how?
No matter what, I go and I sit, I take 3 breaths, I complete.
Mm. Okay, and then how about actually somehow turning your life into a practice, and then like being a practice your life, like that would be maybe like a way to do it as well, right? Like to
Yeah, yeah.
by bringing more
Turning
awareness.
your life into the practice. Oh, yeah. Lot of things you have to, if you just keep your anchoring point as asana practice, like early in the morning, if you want to do the asana practice, everything else falls into the place. Then you have to, Elise, what you have to do is like you have to go to the bed early. To go to bed early, you have to have your dinner early. to have dinner early, certain things you can't do in the evening. Everything starts falling into the place just if you stick to asana practice early in the morning at the same time. Yeah, the whole life becomes more yogic. Your food choices become different. Your sleeping patterns change. Just sticking to asana practice can make miracles.
Mm. I'm waiting if there are more questions from
Yeah,
from the people.
I think
Mm.
that's it.
Yeah. Okay, so I appreciate a lot your time. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge with us. That's very valuable. And I
Uh,
agree with what you said. It's really fascinating how this is the great aspect of social media, right? That we can connect, and then a lot of graduates, as I see, right, could follow up with some questions. And also, it was really a big pleasure to be a host today and have this conversation that I purely enjoyed so much when I was back there in India. And stay
Thank you.
alerted, like our monthly courses, right? You want to say where people can find you
Oh,
and see,
oh,
please?
oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I generally never did that. I didn't know. Yeah, so we do yoga teacher training courses. We don't do the mix of everything. We do hatha yoga teacher training. We do ashtanga teacher training. As completely as completely different. So when we're doing Hatha Yoga teacher training, it is completely focused on Hatha Yoga. Then we do Vinyasa Yoga, we do Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, three different 200-hour courses. And we do the advanced yoga teacher training also. And we have some plans for former Samyak alumni students. Just a hint for those former students, including Victoria, she also doesn't know. There is something that we are working on to keep the community intact, and I'll let you know very soon in all the WhatsApp groups. Something that can be more user friendly for our teaching career, and also to build the community and have some connection with each other. I'll let you know very soon. We are also working on a little bit of new infrastructure. Ashish is saying, like, when do we expect the new building? It's a the sustainable architecture that we are using. It's a damn slow. It is taking almost 3 years now. So in one more year, we should be able to come to certain conclusion. We are using a lime for the first time. I'm saying this. We are using lime, some herbs of Ayurveda, some jaggery, the fermentation of the jaggery juice, in order to build the walls, very less of cement and metals. So to make it more of, even being inside should be more healing. So that kind of infrastructure that we are working on, but it's a very slow process. It has to be a lot of pedagogy that you have to follow. Should be completing in an year, so that we can have more of our former students who can come back and refresh their knowledge, and continue to share and exchange knowledge. Let's see.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed for
Yeah,
finishing and for the community. I'm also super excited. And yeah, if you
thank you.
wanna do more teacher training, then go to Samyak. I also can recommend a lot. And yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you for the conversation. And yeah, the conversation. I feel like the conversation is ongoing, so
Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, I
thank
talk to you. And
Thank you, Victoria. I knew that the conversation will be like this because when we interacted during the teacher training, I know how you approach and how holistic your approach is. And you might not have noticed that most of the time, whenever you are on live, I always come and at least for some time, I always watch you because your holistic approach is very beautiful. It's a joy, and it's kind of very comforting to have yoga teachers who are more holistic in their approach. Thank you for having me.
yeah,
Thank you, everybody who has been here so far. People say social media has very less attention time, and you have been here for the last almost 1.5 hours. Thank you so much.
exactly. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.